In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to destroy every single boss in the 3rd sea. The very first boss that we got here is the stone boss. This guy's at level 1550 boss, and he's located behind Port Town, the very first island in the 3rd sea.
Hello there.
This boss has a respawn time of 20 minutes, and he has a total of 97,750 HP. That is honestly really crazy. He also does around 1.5 thousand damage per hit, which is kind of insane. And if you're wondering what he uses to fight, he uses the basic combat styles as well as some abilities of the old bomb fruit, which honestly isn't that crazy compared to its combat punches, because he can use his combat fighting style way more often than his abilities. When you defeat him, you have a chance of getting the pilot helmet, which is honestly a really cool accessory. It gives you a 130% increase in your movement speed, which is honestly really crazy. And it's the only accessory in the game that can increase your speed by this amount. It also gives you a 10% health regeneration as well as 250 energy and 250 health. The way you can defeat this boss is by using the hidden dash technique, where you just basically dash towards the boss, hit it, and then dash back. Or the way I like to do it is by dashing to the side, because it's way easier when you're on keyboard. If you're on mobile, then you can just do it the other way. And also keep in mind that when he uses the Z ability of the bomb fruit, you can just basically dodge that using observation hockey. So if you turn it on at the right time, then you can basically just cancel one of his moves completely. Once you end up defeating this guy with the quest, you're going to get a total of 25,000 belly as well as 60 million XP. Without the quest, then you get around 1,000 belly as well as 900,000 XP.
Nice.
And obviously the pilot helmet as well, but that's not guaranteed. Moving on, the next boss that I got here is the Island Empress. This boss is level 1675, and the place that she spawns at is in front of this huge castle, and she spawns in every 30 minutes. This boss has a total of 128,000 HP and does around 1,100 damage per hit. And what's unique about this boss is that she actually uses the dark step fighting style, as well as some of the abilities of the old love fruit. And let me tell you, the old love fruit was nothing compared to the current love fruit, so you shouldn't have too much to worry about these abilities. She can use a total of 3 attacks, 2 from the old love fruit and 1 from dark step. Mellowing heart ability basically just creates a huge heart symbol and then dealing a bit of damage to anything in its way. Then we got arrows of imprisonment, where she basically just shoots out a bunch of pink arrows at you. Then we got scented kicks, where she literally teleports to you and just starts kicking the crap out of you. To avoid this, just stay long range. If you stay out of her kick range, then you should be fine. And that's one thing you should keep in mind overall while you're fighting this boss. She actually needs to be close to you, so if you keep your distance and just spam her with abilities from afar, it should be much easier to fight her. Once you end up killing this boss, you also have a chance of getting the serpent bow, which is a legendary gun that you can only get from this boss. Anyways, you might be wondering, how much belly do you get for fighting her? With the quest, you get a total of 30,000 belly as well as 70 million XP. If you fight her without the quest, you only get 10,000 belly and only around 1 million XP. So always make sure you're equipped in quests when you're fighting the bosses. The next boss that we got on this list is the Kilo Admiral. This is a level 1750 boss, and she obviously uses the Kilo fruit. But that is pretty weird since the Kilo fruit isn't really in the game anymore, but she still uses the abilities of that fruit. And she also uses the Sharkman Karate fighting style, which is honestly a pretty deadly fighting style. So make sure you guys stay out of her M1 range. And for her health, she has a total of 138,000 HP, and she does around 1,170 damage per hit. Once you end up defeating her, you actually have a chance of getting the Lay accessory, which increases your health regeneration by 50%, which is honestly really crazy. Imagine pairing that with the Phoenix Fruit's healing ability. If you defeat this boss, she's gonna spawn in 30 minutes, which is honestly a pretty bad spawn time compared to some other bosses. And the things you should keep in mind while fighting her is that make sure you keep your distance, because most of her attacks have pretty bad range. And if you have the Butter Fruit, make sure you're using it, because you can literally destroy the crap out of this boss, but most people don't have access to it. You can also start sky camping, because she doesn't actually have any long range abilities, so if you're in the sky, then she can't do any damage to you.
I'm a bird.
And if you know how to sky camp properly, you're basically gonna have a guaranteed kill on this boss. Moving on to the next boss in the game, we got Captain Elephant, who's a level 1875 boss. He was added all the way back in update 15, and he uses the twin hooks to fight. And this guy has a respawn time of 30 whole minutes. He has a total of 160,000 HP, which is honestly really crazy. And he does around 2,360 damage per hit. And I don't know what's crazier, his health or the damage that he does. This is actually insane. You can find him right here on the floating turtle island. And since he has the twin hooks, he can obviously use both abilities of this sword. The first ability is called Sky Cyclone, and the way you can avoid this is just by spamming your dashes left to right, but that is kind of annoying to do, so I just recommend spamming your dashes in one direction. He shouldn't be able to hit you with the Cyclone. His next ability is called Prehistoric Punt, where he just throws his hooks at you. This is basically a guaranteed hit. The only way to really avoid this is just staying out of his range. And one thing that you definitely should not be doing with this guy is sky camping. Get over here! Because he does have long range abilities. I mean, both of his abilities are literally long range. Anyways, if you equip the quest to defeat this guy, you get a total of 40,000 belly, which is the highest out of any boss so far. And you also get a total of 90 million XP if you're still trying to level up. And since this guy uses the twin hook, you obviously have a chance of getting them when you kill him. And this is actually the only way you can get the twin hook. So if you try to get the sword, this is the boss you should be grinding.
Got him!
Moving on, the next boss that we got here is the Beautiful Pirate. This boss is level 1950 and is located in the Beautiful Pirates domain, which you access from the Floating Turtle Island. But this guy has a total of 110,000 HP, or at least that's what he wants you to think. He evolves into a second form, just like the Dawn Swan boss, and that second form has 210,000 HP, so in total you have to fight a boss with 320,000 HP, which is honestly really crazy. He also does 2,100 damage per hit, and he uses a Cavender sword to fight, so you already know once you defeat this guy, you should have a chance of getting it. And since he uses that sword, he can only use two abilities, and those are straight from that sword. The first one is called Piercing Dash, where he just dashes towards you, and the way to avoid this attack is if you see him about to dash, just activate your observation hack. It will dodge the attack completely. The next ability he can use is called Scattering Gust, where he also dashes towards you and launches 5 air slashes towards you. To dodge this, you can just kind of keep a distance and use abilities from a long range. And also make sure you're constantly dashing when you're next to him, because if you're always on the move, then he'll basically never be able to hit you. Once you end up defeating this boss, you're gonna get a total of 50,000 belly as well as 100 million XP. Yeah, that is a crazy amount. But if you don't equip the quest, you're only gonna get around 1,000 belly. The next boss that we got here is the Logma boss, who's a level 2000 boss. And this is actually the boss that you have to defeat when you complete the Tushida puzzle. So not everyone in the game is actually going to be fighting this guy. He has a total of 80,000 HP and does around 2,000 damage per hit. And he obviously uses the Tushida because that's the sword you're going to get once you destroy him. And like most other bosses in the game, he respawns every 30 minutes. And he can use the Z and X abilities of the old Tushida sword. Some tricks you can use to fight him is just honestly using the wall glitch, where you just lure him to a wall, go into the other side of it, and just start spamming the crap out of him, and he literally won't be able to do any damage to you. But if you're not able to do that, just use the hidden dash strategy. But I recommend using the first one because it's honestly a lot easier and you can kill him a lot faster.
Stop the cap.
Moving on, the next boss that I got here is the Cake Queen. This is a level 2175 boss and she was added all the way in update 17.1. She has a total of 260,000 HP and she uses the Buddy Sword as her weapon. And you can find her in her huge palace. Or I don't know if this is really a palace. It's more like a peanut. But anyway, she spawns in every 30 minutes, and once you defeat her, you have a chance of getting the Buddy Sword dropped to you. She uses both abilities of the Buddy Sword. The first one is Heat Slash, where she just slashes her sword, shooting one big projectile at you. And the way to avoid this is just by keeping your distance. If you're far enough away from her, then she'll literally never use this ability. Just dash around her and keep a safe distance.
I'm fastest, boy.
The next ability that she uses is Lightning Wave, where she just fires off a huge amount of purple lightning at a really high speed towards you. She's only going to use it if you're really far away. So you kind of have to choose what ability you're going to deal with, because if you're close, she's going to use one ability, and if you're too far away, she's going to use another one. So I recommend just dealing with which ability does the least damage. And if you're planning to fight this boss, I honestly recommend using the Butterfruit, and if you don't have it, just get some help from your friends. She's pretty difficult to defeat. But once you end up destroying her with the quest, you're going to get a total of 30,000 belly as well as 112,500,000 XP. Damn! Damn, that is a huge amount of XP. But that's pretty much it.